All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the all-new X Zone Broadcast Network and the Talk Star Radio Network. If you'd like to give us a call, toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. Email is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv. My guest this hour is Bruce GERNON, and we're going to be talking about the Bermuda Triangle and the fog. Bruce is the only person in the world to witness what creates the Bermuda Triangle. Others have seen parts of this phenomenon, and some have seen it but vanished. Bruce is the only one to see it from its birth stage through its mature stage and enter the heart of the time storm and escape through a tunnel vortex and experience a time warp of 30 minutes forward in time and 100 miles forward in space. Joining me now is Bruce GERNON. And Bruce, welcome to the X Zone.
Hey, Rob. Thanks.
Tell us, Bruce, about the experience you had, and let me just ask you this, and then we'll get into the experience when we come back from this commercial break. What do you say to people that you meet who say, the Bermuda Triangle, it's a bunch of bunk, it's a myth?
Yes, I know there's a lot of people out there that think it's a myth. A great many, probably a majority of the people would probably believe that there's nothing there. Mm-hmm. But I would say to them that the universe is not only stranger than we can imagine, it is stranger than we can imagine. And the only way to discover the limits of the possible is to go beyond them into the impossible. And that's exactly what happened to me. I experienced something considered to be impossible. So I've been researching this for over 40 years now, and I've discovered some of the things that I could never have discovered without having this experience.
What is it like to be the only person who has seen the mystery behind the Bermuda Triangle from beginning until end?
Well, it's just a matter of fate that I happen to have that experience. I mean, there's been hundreds of people that have experienced what I call electronic fog. Mm-hmm. That's this powerful fog that is created within this storm. And there's been hundreds of people that have died that have been in the fog also. But this time storm, I call it, that seems to burst from the atmosphere and combines itself with the earth itself, mm-hmm. is something that people have seen parts of, and I'm the only one that's seen this from the birth stage, and then happened to get caught right in the heart of it, and then was fortunate enough to find an exit and make it to the other side and escape the storm. That apparently lasts only about 20 minutes, and it's shaped like a ring, a donut shape, usually about 30 or 40 miles in diameter.
Would that be like the size of the eye of a hurricane?
Well, it's smaller than a hurricane. Yeah, like the eye.
Yeah.
It would be. That's a good thought.
All right, stand by, Bruce. You and I have to take our first commercial break. Bruce GERNON is our special guest. 2 websites, X-Zone Nation, www.bermudatrianglefog.com. That's www.bermudatrianglefog.com. And www.perez-wx-research.info. That's www.pares-wx-research.info. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, talking about the Bermuda Triangle and the fog this hour.
You were the sunshine, baby, whenever you smiled. But I call you stormy today. All of a sudden, that old rain is falling down, and my world is cloudy and gray. You've gone away, oh storm.
Welcome back, everyone. Bruce GERNON is our special guest. His website is www.bermudatrianglefog.com. And also the website for another website to look for is Professor David Perez's website. It's www.pares-wx-research.info. All right, so the I guess we can, what do we call it? The eye of the vortex, or the center of this phenomenon is like a donut or like the eye of a hurricane. And what happens then?
Well, inside this storm, the air is normal. When I had this experience back in 1970, the winds were light and variable, and it was very calm inside this area. But it's on the outer edges that's what's unusual. The way this storm builds up so rapidly, it seems to ignite on the surface up to like maybe 300 miles an hour. It seemed to spread out and build up very rapidly. It built up to probably 60,000 feet or more in only a matter of 15 minutes or
Wow.
so. And it also seemed to lay on the surface of the water instead of having a ceiling like a normal cloud. There was no base to the storm. So I couldn't fly underneath it, and it was too high to fly over it. And, so I penetrated into it, and at this point it was full of electricity. Like flashes of light were going on and off very rapidly, and it just wasn't raining or anything, but the visibility seemed to be a few miles at least. But it just became so intense that I exited out after going in only about a mile in it. And then I got back into the donut area that's open, and I traveled along the edge of the storm. And then after going 10 miles or so, I started to realize that this edge of the storm just connected back to the storm that I had just come out of. And that's when I realized that it was like a donut shape, and I was trapped in the center of it. But then I saw where the two opposite ends of this storm, the opposite end of where it had formed, were just connecting. And they connected on the bottom, and there was like a big U-shaped valley in between the two squalls. But then they formed anvil heads on the upper portion as I was starting to aim for that area, and the two anvil heads connected, and it formed this huge horizontal tunnel that was at least a mile or two in diameter when it first formed. And I felt that that was the only way I could escape from this storm, because I was in the middle of the ocean in between Bimini and Andros Islands over the Great Bahama Bank, and there was no place to land. And I figured that was the only way out. And my dad was the co-pilot and also a licensed pilot, and he agreed with me that it looked like the only way to get out of this thing. And so we were at 11,500 feet, and the center appeared to be around 10,000. So we dove down toward the center, and we could see that it was rapidly closing. And I find out now, I've seen many of these tunnels over the years, but I've never seen one quite this long. But I've seen them up to 5 miles long. This one seemed to be around 10 miles long. And these tunnels usually last about 3 minutes, and I really didn't time it exactly right. Of course, I didn't know it would last 3 minutes, but that's about how long it would take me to fly through that tunnel and going 10 miles. And when I entered the tunnel, the diameter was maybe close to 1,000 feet, and something incredible happened when I penetrated into this tunnel. These lines instantly formed, and I still haven't figured out why they formed so magically like that. I mean, like
what kind
they
of
were not there
what kind of
before.
lines are you talking about here, Bruce? You said the lines formed. What kind of lines?
They were made up of a series of broken clouds about the size of a small bus, and they were like all in a line with each other, and they went from one end of the tunnel all the way to the other end, but they curved, they spiraled. They were all parallel, but they were spiraling counterclockwise, also moving very slowly, maybe 2 or 3 RPMs, and they were just hovering off the walls of the tunnel. But it was a very symmetrical looking thing in appearance. And well, today I believe that this has something to do with the formation of this electronic fog. The lines that I was seeing apparently become a part of this electronic fog when the tunnel collapses. Now, no one's ever been in one of these tunnels and survived. So I'm the only one that's ever done this.
Now, are these is this natural phenomenon occurring at other places on this beautiful planet of ours, or is it indicative to the Bermuda Triangle only?
No, it can happen all over the world. It's just in certain areas it happens a lot more, especially the area of the Bahamas and around Andros Island, the largest of the Bahama Islands, and the Great Bahama Bank also is one of the largest banks. I think it is the largest bank in the Caribbean. So I would call that the central area of where this forms. But it can also form right over the Everglades. I've experienced electronic fog a second time over the Everglades in 1996, and there's other pilots that have experienced it also right in the same area at the southern end of the Everglades. A lot of storms form there.
Is this electronic fog?
Tunnels.
Is the electronic fog responsible for the glow that has been reported on aircraft that fly through these anomalies in the Bermuda Triangle, as well as is this electronic fog responsible for the failure of electronic equipment to work?
Yes, it can affect electronic equipment, and it depends on how powerful. It appears to have different intensity levels. The second time I was in it, the instruments were working fine, but it was only on the bottom. It was only connected to the bottom of the aircraft, and it wasn't completely surrounding the aircraft like the time that I experienced in 1970. It completely surrounded the airplane, and it was a lot more intense. So it actually made the magnetic compass slowly spin counterclockwise, and it made all my electronic navigational instruments malfunction. And that's when I escaped from the tunnel. And time was being affected when I entered into that tunnel. And it should have taken me at least 20 seconds, 3 minutes to get to the other end of the tunnel, but it only took about 20 seconds for me to reach the other end of the tunnel. So that was the beginning of this boost in space that I experienced as I went through the tunnel. And when I reached the end of it, the wingtips scraped the edges of the tunnel, and these contrails formed on the wingtips as I looked back and watched the tunnel collapse and form like a slit in the clouds that kept rotating clockwise now. And I had entered this clear blue sky that was in the direction toward Miami, about 100 miles away from Miami, or I'd be 90 miles at the point where I got out of the tunnel. And that blue sky instantly disappeared. And this was the part that took me so long to figure out why that disappeared, and how I made it to Miami without ever seeing any islands, the Bimini chain of islands. I should have passed over that, and without seeing the ocean. So I could never figure out what that was until about 30 years later. I finally realized that this electronic fog had attached itself to the aircraft. There's been dozens and dozens of planes that have been in this, and many people have even written about it, but none of the pilots ever realized that it was attached to them. They always thought they were flying through a fog. And it's similar to like St. Elmo's fire in that it attaches itself to the craft, and then it goes with you. It clings to you. And so this can be very disorienting, and it can actually induce spatial disorientation, which has caused many pilots to enter a graveyard spiral and then a high-speed crash right into the ocean, or it could happen over the land too.
Hi, this is Eric Rawls of Cosmoverse.com, and you're listening to Rob McConnell in the X Zone.
Hi, this is Blade Runner, and you are listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Hi, I'm Laura Sabrin of Feast to Fields Organic Vineyard in Jordan, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Hi, my name is Lady Ashley, the White Witch of Niagara-on-the-Lake, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal talk radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Sun goes down on a silky
Bruce GERNON is our special guest, Exonation. He is the author of a fascinating book about his experience in the Bermuda Triangle. It's called The Fog. And Bruce's website is www.bermudatrianglefog.com. That's www.bermudatrianglefog.com. And the website for his partner, Professor David Parris' website is www.pares-wx-research.info. So tell us more, and how did you finally get out of this time-space displacement you were in, and what happened next?
Well, another incredible thing happened immediately when I reached the end of the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
I had this sensation. We had this feeling of zero gravity that lasted for about 10 seconds. And I've experienced zero gravity in the airplane many times. Just do it for fun sometimes, just form a parabolic curve so you can see what it's like and feel it. But this was different than normal zero gravity. It also felt like I was hydroplaning, like skidding forward in a strange manner. And it lasted about 10 seconds, and I didn't realize the significance of that until just recently. So I'd like to get back to that in a few minutes. So
sure.
When I started to fly the airplane, and I could see that the compass is spinning, the navigational equipment is malfunctioning, so I couldn't trust my instruments anymore. So I used a compass that I had developed in my mind to steer with. It was similar to a magnetic compass, a wet compass. It would float on the top of my head, and I was able to use that and maintain the heading of 270 degrees. So I didn't make any turns, and that's where a lot of pilots that have vanished from this problem of electronic fog started making turns, and that's what starts the disorientation. So I didn't make any turns the whole time, and when I got out of the tunnel, I was about 90 miles from Miami. So I wasn't sure of my position anymore because my instruments were malfunctioning. I couldn't use them to give myself a position fix. And I asked my dad, he was the chief navigator, to give me one, and he couldn't do it either. And then I was able to contact Miami radio, though, on the radio, and told him our situation, and he said, well, he'd see if he could help us, and he couldn't get him on his radar, so he switched him over to the radar center in Miami, and we talked to them, and then they couldn't find us on radar either. And so we weren't anywhere in the area of Miami or the Bahamas, and that's because we were in this cocoon of electronic fog, and apparently they won't show up on radar when that happens. And my dad started to panic at this point. He was getting really disoriented. But I told the radar controller just to stand by, and we'd just keep flying, because everything was fine. The airplane's running smooth. I slowed it down to 180 miles an hour, and everything looked strange, though. It was hard to understand. It was like being in the middle of a milk bottle, a famous writer, Martin Caden, once said, because he experienced it once. And unable to contact shore or see anything that didn't look normal. I thought that it might have been the ocean below us, but it didn't look like the ocean. It's like weird, and there was no more horizon. And
so basically, it was like flying. It was like flying in soup.
Yeah, but the soup's flying with you, though.
Oh my gosh!
So that's what nobody understands. It's connected to you, and it forms like an illusion. It's very difficult to figure out what you're seeing here. And so then the radar controller came back on the radio 3 minutes later, and he's really excited. He says he's got an airplane directly over Miami Beach. And I look at my watch, and I've only been flying for 3 minutes, and it should take me about 30 minutes to reach Miami. So I told him, no, I'm still probably 85 miles east of Miami. He says, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yes, I'm positive." And then these slits, another interesting thing happened. The electronic fog dissipated. It was like an electronic dissipation when I reached the shoreline, and these cracks, there were like lines at first, and then I could see there were cracks. I could see the blue sky through the cracks formed all around the airplane parallel to the direction of flight. And at the time, I thought these lines or cracks were miles, many miles long, but that was an illusion. Now I realize that they were maybe only yards long, maybe only 100 or 200 yards long. And that was the cocoon around the airplane. And then the cracks got wider and wider. It took about 10 seconds for them all to disappear, and then there's nothing left but blue sky. And I look behind me thinking I'm going to see the cloud bank behind me, and there's no cloud bank anywhere. I'm in clear blue sky. And I look down below me, and there's Miami Beach directly below me. And I knew something unbelievable had happened that I didn't understand, but I realized at the time that I would need to always remember what I had just experienced, because someday it might be important for like the whole world to know about. And
now, what does Professor Paris say about the situation that you found yourself in, and what are his explanations for what happened?
Well, he's been working on my theories for over 4 years now at the University of Nebraska. And he's a meteorologist, a physicist, and a geologist. And so that combination of knowledge has given him the ability to really understand what I experienced. And more than any other scientist, he's a research scientist.
Mm-hmm.
And I've worked with many research scientists over the years, and famous ones too. And no one has done as much as Professor Paris. And he's actually come up with a theory of his own that's related to what happened. And it has to do with that zero gravity that I experienced. I met with him 3 times. We did 3 television shows together recently. And as we talked, and he was picking my brain, and when I told him how that zero gravity hit us right at that point and everything, that's when it hit him that something incredible had happened that is even beyond what I had realized. It's that feeling. It's kind of hard for me to explain because I don't really understand it like he does. It's something to do with the gravity and traveling. It's like in Star Wars. What is that boost you get when you turn on the warp drive?
Oh, right. Where you?
Yeah, it's similar to that. It's similar to turning on the warp drive, and that's what I was feeling, because he says that's the sensation that you would get when you enter this warp drive. He doesn't call it warp drive though, but that's it's got another name for it, some sort of linear displacement through space. And
so this cloud or this storm or this electromagnetic anomaly, does it actually affect the time-space continuum?
Well, it's like yes and no. In my case, time really didn't change. Our clocks remain the same as the clocks on Earth. So I really didn't travel through time. But time and space are linked together, so in a way I did too. But what Professor Paris is saying is that when I get that boost, it lasted close to 10 seconds. I had traveled that distance of 80 miles. See, I was 90 miles from Miami. And in 10 seconds, he says that I was 10 miles away from Miami. So I traveled 80 miles in less than 10 seconds. So that would be an incredible speed. And at first, when he came up with the theory, I told him that it was impossible. But I thought about it, and I realized that it is possible. That really could have happened. And he's got this all done mathematically and graphically on his website that he just created recently. So if you want to see what it looks like, it's a good website to check out. He's really made a lot of progress in his research on this, and he's actually trying to create this in his laboratory. And he's coming closer and closer to doing it. And he's got his students helping him work on it, and they're starting to make a lot of progress on it.
Is this the same reason that so many ships disappeared without any notice? Other aircraft have vanished off radar. Is this the answer to the Bermuda Triangle, or is this just part of it?
Well, it's a part of it, but it's the main answer. It's Professor Paris believes, and so do I, that if I had entered this tunnel going in the other direction, that would have disintegrated. So he thinks it's possible for a vessel to disintegrate.
Tell us about your book, The Fog.
Well, I'm not really a writer, but I tried to write this book, and I had this manuscript, and I realized it would be hard to publish, so I found a writer in the city here where I live in Florida, Wellington. His name was Rob McGregor, a professional writer, and he created Indiana Jones and wrote all those novels. So I teamed up with him and got him to rewrite my manuscript. So he's the co-author of the book, and he made the book much more interesting to read than what my manuscript was, like kind of scientific and dull. So he took it and almost turned it into like a novel. So a lot of people have read it and said they really, really enjoyed it. Some people start reading it and they can't put it down, they said, until they finish it.
How does this theory sit with the government, the air traffic control people, the insurance companies, as well as those who have lost loved ones within the Great Bermuda Triangle?
Yes, the government is not involved yet, but we're trying to get them involved. And air traffic controllers are starting to become aware of this. I had one for the first time contact me and said he thought there was an aircraft that may have experienced electronic fog. But we analyzed it for him, Professor Paris and I, and we determined that it wasn't the electronic fog. But at least he was thinking about it. And we're trying to get NASA to fly a drone through one of these tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
And if they could do that, then the instruments should pick up some very unusual readings, and that would be like the first step forward into trying to find out exactly what this really is. It in the future could be a way to travel through space, and it would solve some of the problems of the great distance that we'd have to travel to get to other planets.
All right, stand by, Bruce. You and I have to take our final break. We'll be back after this short break from our fine sponsors. Once again, Bruce GERNON is our special guest. www.BermudaTriangleFog.com, and he is the author of The Fog. I'd like to welcome a couple of affiliates. Of course, there is always AM 1600 KOHI in St. Helens, Oregon, CFRA AM 580 in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and one of our new affiliates, WPUL AM 1560 in Daytona Beach, Florida. Welcome to the X Zone, everyone. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, in the X Zone. And, of course, on the all-new X Zone Broadcast Network and Talkstar Radio. Don't go away.
To me, baby, you gotta understand. You're old enough to know the makings of a man. Listen to me, baby, it's hard to settle down. Am I asking too much for you to stick around? Every boy wants a girl he can trust to the very end. Baby, that's you. Walk your way, but till then, when I see just taken over my one-track mind. Believe it or not,
welcome back, everyone. Just a little typo we had here. The affiliate in Daytona Beach, Florida is WPUL 1590 AM. So to all our good friends, Larry Steele, the staff and listeners of WPUL 1590 AM in Daytona Beach, welcome to the X Zone. Larry, Bruce GERNON is our special guest, www.bermudatrianglefog.com. He is the author of The Fog. And Bruce, do these tunnels, these anomalies, show up on weather Doppler radar?
No, I don't think they do. I've seen one on airborne radar that's in that aircraft. It was called vertical profile radar. And they captured a tunnel that was probably a few miles long that was in the walls of a thunderstorm. But on regular radar, it wouldn't show up because it would need to be a vertical profile to see the radar. But on radar, the time storm, not the tunnel, the vortex tunnel. That won't show up, but the time storm will show up. I've seen it only once on radar, and it formed in the same place where I'd flown through it, and it lasted probably 20 minutes, and it was gone. But there's on my website, there's a photo of a radar image that a man from Indiana captured. And he did a lot of research on this because he had an experience with this. And the radar shows about 5 of these rings or donut-shaped storms, and they're all about 40 miles in diameter, that all burst out of the earth at almost the same time, just one right after another, within seconds of each other.
One quick question for you, because we're running out of time very, very fast here. So, how do commercial airliners and pleasure aircraft avoid this anomaly and avoid being smacked down into the sea?
Well, all pilots know that they shouldn't fly through a horizontal tunnel. The only reason I did it was because I felt it was the only way I could escape from the inside of this storm. But the electronic fog, that appears to be like in the shape of a sphere, and it could be 100 yards in diameter or more, and it appears to like drift around. I mean, they're usually formed at about the 10,000 foot level inside the tunnel. But then after the tunnel collapses, this sphere of fog comes out, and it can drift around for many hours.
Bruce, we have to say so long for tonight, but listeners, if you have any more questions, if you want to learn more, go to Bruce's website at www.bermudatrianglefog.com. When I come back from the news at the top of the hour at 6.5 minutes past, John Michael Greer joins us to talk about UFOs right here in the X Zone on the X Zone Broadcast Network and Talkstar Radio.